This is a videotape about some of the performance work which took place during the 1976 Biennale of Sydney at the Art Gallery of New South Wales under the direction of Tom McCulloch. I should like to begin by making a disclaimer. This is a videotape about performance art, not a performance. The works included have been performed and are vanished. Those traces of the works and the ensuing discussion are merely a record, perhaps educative, perhaps leading to further development. They should not be confused by any means with the works themselves. This tape is part of the deceptive role of journalism and public relations that many people accept as the truth, even when the actuality, the physical experience, is different. Performance work is characterized by its reception as first-hand experience, the immediacy of contact between artist and spectator, since both audience and performer experience the piece simultaneously. Carolyn Tisdall has written in the Studio International Performance issue that a performer cannot stand back and judge the finished object or vehicle of his thought before it goes out into the world. He or she cannot niggle or patch or wipe it out, because there the thing is, placed in real time and with the audience present at its making, a life dimension. In crude terms, the artist as person has much less to hide behind, and any mask is of his own making. The audience is participating, that is, an agent of interaction, whether it be with the object of the perception or the artist. Thus, in Fujiko Nakaya's fog sculpture, we see a situation in which the spectator is encouraged, by placement of the work in a public place, namely the Domain opposite the Art Gallery of New South Wales, to enter into the space occupied by the work and explore by very direct contact its properties. The feel, the smell, the drifting currents of fog and temperature, the colour and its interaction with the trees and surrounding grasslands. The fog was very comfortable to be in and encouraged a great deal of social behaviour, people interacting with each other in an extraordinary situation and interacting with the fog itself. The fog was pure water droplets suspended in the air. A real fog, artificially created, pumping water through superfine jets for a superfine spray. Many people found great delight in the experience of the fog, but for most this was not direct experience with the artist, though she was around a lot. This video material of the fog was shot by Fujiko Nakaya, and we'll follow with an interview with her.
This was the most open piece I have ever done. That's because the people are very open here, and it just influenced me when I was working there in the Domain.
Did you gain anything from this?
Yes, I had to find another aesthetics for myself working here, more oriented towards people, and I was working more in thinking in terms of sort of natural balance, something to happen when the physical condition was right, and sort of perfect balance of what I'm doing and natural conditions. And maybe 3-4 times during the whole time it might happen there when the condition was right. Area very peacefully with the fog, as though it happened naturally, but it's induced. But
in accordance with your fog being in essence water, and in essence a very important event as far as progress in using it for what, orchards?
I tried to respond to its environment, and it included the people this time. And every other person in the park came to talk to me, asked me what I was doing, and I explained I was making fog sculpture, and they were very interested in, and they were so excited about it. And so my piece sort of evolved from the natural environmental thing to people's environment. And in the process I had to I had to discard my aesthetics
It does seem to
almost,
be.
you know, and to find another criterion for my piece.
Yeah, there does seem to be a very strong sort of social process in aesthetics
Yes.
in this country.
Yes.
Well, I don't know, and I suppose it comes out of sort of British work and things like that to a large extent too. A lot more concentration is placed on the social aesthetic or the social process in aesthetics than it is on the that very Japanese thing, which is to us a Japanese thing, something that is
Yeah,
foreign
it's,
to us, of the very pure, what we tend to call the Zen kind of thing, which is
Yeah,
probably a
it's-
serious misunderstanding of the use of that word.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of very pure, clear, abstract, sort of very empty kind of aesthetic, or which is not kind of culturally terribly kind of easy for Australians to cope with as a way of dealing with art and things, which is why I think a lot of the works in the Biennale have been found so difficult, and many people find them very, very difficult, you know. Yet your work has been probably one of the most readily accepted because it's just completely exposed and open, and it also does kind of seem to here have as you sort of point out, developed a social kind of relationship as well as just the
During
simple
it
natural
just
balance
evolved
process.
as
Yeah.
I worked, you know.
Also the participation of the people.
Yes.
I mean,
That's right,
you
yeah.
must participate in your act in order to
But I,
make it.
you know, in the beginning, I didn't want to direct that as a participation piece, and but it evolved to be that way, and I liked it very much. I liked this piece most of all, you know, of all the things I have done. I was more interested before in revealing the natural properties to, you know, relate yourself to in a different way with this changing nature of things. But it was like a collaboration with nature before, and now it's really a people's collaboration finishing the work, sort of.
I like the fact that Bob has to repair it every day after every event too.
Yes.
Squashing the nozzles and things. It's really a new event every day.
When we were talking about it the other week on Saturday, you said that you would have been a lot happier if people were sort of moving through it
Yeah.
rather than outside looking in.
Yes. Yeah, I never thought of it as a visual piece to start with. It was directed for more direct experience.
Was
And,
this because of the past works that you've done? You've had to work in conjunction with buildings and structures and architects, and they've been in environments that haven't been close to nature, and you haven't had that much control over the setting of where you're going to place the fog?
well, maybe it's the environment I worked with. You know, it was in Sweden. It was an island, not inhabited by, you know, inhabited.
Yeah.
Uninhabited, no.
What did you do in Sweden?
Well, I wanted to bring the island alive for 2 weeks of the event, you know, and just accentuating the physical natures of the island through fog. You could see the wind, and you could feel the contours of the land differently, and what you overlook, you know. But having fog there, you can experience it in another way, and just sort of perform the island as a musical instrument almost, to make it alive.
What sort of reactions do you generally get from people? Reactions. Because that's important in a way, isn't it? Everyone's reaction is important. Even people who are totally flabbergasted.
Well, the children came to me and they kept thanking me for making the fog, which was very nice. And one child came and told me, "You make us happy. You make people smile." That was very nice.
On Thursday evening, at the beginning of the evening, a friend of mine's child was frightened of the fog and didn't want to go in, so she left the child with me. And after a little while of looking and watching everybody else sort of go through, she went out and sort of started tentatively testing it out and moving through, and ended up enjoying it. So there was a sort of a learning process going through, sort of overcoming fears.
So many people really think it's smoke or it's or some sort of chemical or something which you can't go into, and they sort of come up and say, "Can you walk through it?"
The
which is
first
really.
day when we had it on, somebody walked, covering his mouth. They thought it was insecticides, spraying the grass, and some people keep calling it a smog. I say it's fog, but when are you putting on the smog?
Or the smoke screen.
Smoke screen. Police call it the smoke screen.
Yes, and behind a demonstration, and that was really funny when they were all just demonstrating against Fraser when he rolled up. And so as it not to interrupt the demonstration, we waited until after Fraser got inside the gallery and then switched it on. But it was just like a smoke screen coming up behind everybody. It was just
rolling across the road by that stage and sort of covering all the demonstrators and things. It was just really good because there was thousands of people on the road and all around that area, and it was just filling every space. Yeah.
This is a trunk robot, as you can see. This is a display of a discovery in the basement of a house in Los Angeles, California. They're bulldozing this old house here, and had some children found in the basement a trunk. They opened the trunk and they found the remains of like a humanoid, some sort of mechanical being, which for the investment of $1 Australian, you can have a peek at when the machine is working. Apparently this house had belonged to a rather eccentric inventor and somewhat of a renegade scientist who somewhat of a recluse, and his neighbors didn't know too much about him. This is the story here of what authorities were able to piece together to explain this truly strange phenomena. These are some of the artifacts that were found inside the trunk along with the trunk robot. These are letters, some sort of esoteric reference to scientific mechanisms and mechanical things. exhibit in an environment that I built called the Traveling Mystery Museum. And the environment was started in 1973, and it was completed in 75 with this piece. But it still continues to grow as new pieces are added to it. The idea of the environment was patterned after in the States we have these itinerant sideshow carnivals, things which are usually homemade. They travel either by themselves or you'll find them along the highway, like in rural areas out in the desert. And they usually have some sort of a rather sensational flavor about them. They'll have huge highway signs telling you 5 miles to the thing. And as you get closer, the frequency of the signs increases, and pretty soon it says, turn here to see the thing, the mystery thing, whatever. You turn there and you go down a dirt road. It's usually in the back of some guy's house or a little shack, and you pay maybe $1 or $2 to walk into this exhibit, which is usually a homemade affair with these really mysterious kind of things like the alligator man or the 8-headed chicken, or real freaky things which sort of cater to people's interest in the sensational. And I've always been interested in this phenomena, and that was part of the reason that I built my own traveling mystery museum, was to play with the idea of illusion and reality. And so I built a whole bunch of very strange exhibits, all of which were manufactured, but they were all very painstakingly documented to give them the illusion of reality, somewhat like this piece. So that you walked into this museum, as an artist, you would go in and see it in one light, but if you're, say, an average person off the street, you could also enjoy it on another level. So it had sort of multi-level meanings in it, and lots of clues as to its authenticity or lack of. And to complete the feeling of this kind of audience participation, I had souvenirs, which were real cheap, at the end of the show, so that people could buy postcards and send to their friends of these strange exhibits. And I had like trading cards and all that kind of cheap paraphernalia that you associate with carnivals. And the idea was that the people, by entering the show, became part of it. They became part of the experience of seeing this thing, and they could take some of it away with them in the form of souvenirs. So this piece really is best seen not in a very formal art gallery setting like this, but somewhere off the highway somewhere, in a little storefront or a situation like that, where you have its brothers, or other exhibits like Foods That Spy on You, which was an expose on the CIA transmitting radios and donuts and selling them to people to eat so they could track them. And they had spy flies and giant Hollywood insects. We had the world's most dangerous chair, which was a chair packed with dynamite and hand grenades with a button on the seat. And we had the mystery mummy, which is quite interesting. It was a man that was found in the desert. It was all dried up. He was laying in a chaise lounge wearing Bermuda shorts and a Hawaiian shirt in the middle of the desert. And really quite remarkable discoveries. A really unique exhibit, actually. And there's the clock of doom. And we had a fortune-telling mouse which read tarot cards for a penny. And this whole thing then was a little show to itself, and you walked into it, and the audience was just as important as the pieces, because when it was originally shown in Venice, which is like a slum sort of suburb of Los Angeles, after the opening night and all the artists were there, I stayed on there as this itinerant curator, and people would float in off the street, and I had signs on this whole building, and to them, this thing was what it appeared to be. To them it was a traveling mystery museum, and they offered all sorts of really interesting explanations as to how they offered, explanations as to how these things came to be, using their own system of logic, and it's real interesting because they had some really creative ideas about the existence of this and these other pieces. It's really neat theories. And I like that very much, interacting with people. I like making art that is accessible to an audience greater than a very esoteric group.
There's no trick. I swear I won't open.
I think it's very true.
Is that mine? There's a girl over here who knows one of the people in West Germany who sent a secret quite a nice ago. So she's sending a message. Quite crazy. She's only been here for 2 weeks. Just take it off the wall, and I'll give you a pen. Can't open it. Can't open it until you put a secret. There's paper, pens, and after you put a secret in it,
Michael Macmillan's piece, Trunk Robot, depends on its accessibility and its relationship to a certain kind of popular imagery. Terry Reid's Sydney Secret Exchange depends upon accessibility for its form. In this case, it uses the males. Michael Nicholson's, Macmillan's and Reid's concern with involving people in the work contrasts strongly with Jim Allen's work. There are always elephants to be made drunk. This is a piece with much social comment in the realm of language and social programming, the meta-program. The performance with Gunter Christmann accompanying on the jaw harp occurred once a day, and it was largely a matter of chance whether one saw it or not. A work in public, presented directly in public as performance, yet difficult to understand, obscure in its meaning to those uninitiated into the mysteries of conceptual art and art language concerns, yet perhaps plain in its action of rubbishing the piece of newspaper. This is a work where public interaction is not expected, nor sought, except strictly as spectators, and serves to illustrate the opposite pole of performance work from that which directly confronts and involves the spectator. Each of these works in this tape posits a distinct and unique relationship between the artist and the onlooker, and thus the degree of participation on the part of the onlooker. That is, in the feedback from the audience towards the artist, and the degree to which this feedback affects the further development of the work in process. There is a strong process operating in all of these works, which serves to contrast them from the static works. Michael Nicholson's polypole pool shots, only briefly encountered previously in the tape, and Michael Macmillan's trunk robot, both demand considerable participation of the type where the work is not actually going on unless the onlooker becomes physically involved, tracking the balloons with the video camera in the Nicholson piece, or inserting a coin into the trunk robot and looking through the eyepiece. We can contrast this with the kind of involvement required with Terry Reid's Sydney Secrets Exchange, where the work, although in an ongoing state, whether or not a particular spectator is participating in its process, is utterly dependent upon the participation of spectators for its operation at all. Ma Ground's second art bit installation also is an ongoing work, not demanding that one is personally involved to see what the work is, but that at least some of the day-by-day audience enter into the interactive process set up within by the presence of the artist.
piece of work.
You didn't know about this either.
I see this work as being one of the few things that comments about the whole museum situation and the problem of visitors at all levels who come in and who go out stone cold, the works don't touch them in any way. No.
I'm talking about the great, the great average, whatever that is.
Yeah, the general masses, the people that I work with, the people who keep my museum doors open. I don't mean the specialists who come in and reflect and probe. Just the average intelligent person and the average unintelligent person. If unintelligent people come in galleries, which is pretty doubtful as to maybe they come in not knowing what it's about. There are people who want to know a great deal more about art than they feel they know.
That's why they come.
That's right.
I mean, this isn't on Main Street. Isn't the museum in Ballarat on Main Street?
Yes, yeah.
Where people can drop in, where there's an effort to come here.
Yeah.
So anyone who comes here, although they might be Mr. and Mrs. Average, there is a physical, obviously you have some form of inquiring mind to go through the effort to walk across the park.
But it's the large proportion of those people who come up again and again with the comment that they don't like modern art, contemporary attitudes to art. And that's the epitome of boredom, I guess. It just goes right past them. And, it seems to me that Mar has come to grips with that and created a trap in here, whereby if they have any kind of curiosity at all, and curiosity is what brings a lot of people into galleries purely and simply that.
Yeah, and also this
in here,
But not when the little gate is on. They can't just come in by themselves.
That's right. That's a compromise. In the ideal circumstances, I would see Mar being here the whole time. I can't accept the work at a sculptural level very easily. I think that it works quite well when you stand back and look at it and think about the forms. But because it's tucked under a stairwell and so on, it tends to defeat that purpose, the display aspect of a work of art. All right, it can be modest and it can be...
This is something I was going to ask you. Yeah, I think a lot of people are coming to this show, this particular show in this museum for the wrong reason. I mean, there's a lot of sensation, like the Stirlap thing. There's a lot of sensationalism.
Stella.
Now this piece is very deliberately a low-key, low-product. It's the opposite of that thing. A lot of my work, recent work, this is very, no primary colors, very neutral. It's all tones, discovery thing. And I think in context, the show is a very important area of which to explore too.
Why do you have the videotape going?
Right now?
Yes, why don't you just come in and talk to people and have the conversations? And why are you using videotape?
Normally you do. This is a very special occasion. This is a temporary installation. Right? It's not like glass or normal sculpture. This will go. We're just going into a whole other type of media and sense of perception. This is documenting this thing that's going away. Normally that chain drops down. It's a very soft light, and I'm back here, and people at random come in here. It's the whole purpose of it. This is quite false right now. Oh no.
The footlights are switched off.
Yeah, it's zoomed right in now. What you got to do is point
You're given that. It is.
Are people really embarrassed to come back and talk to you?
No, it's very. See, this was. I wanted this a subliminal statement, a discovery piece, but I had no idea. Tried to guess how many people would come in. I had no idea, and I was prepared to get into what I call controls. Like one of the reasons the dogs are here is this Peter. People weren't coming. This piece, in my opinion, when I'm here, would be a failure if no people came in whatsoever. It would also be a failure, in my opinion. It was a sensational thing. They're queued up here and they're screaming and yelling. You wouldn't be able to hear this for talk. Now, there's all sorts of controls when I'm here, which I can go into. One is where I sit. Stephen was asking me when to sit in an unusual spot. If I sit here and someone comes around the corner and I glare at him, you control it quite easily.
Do people just accidentally peek around, or is there a little sign, a little arrow or
No,
something?
it's just, doesn't have, it just has this light. It's one spot on the sign. It's a chamber, it's a labyrinth. When Tom first asked me part of the Biennale, I wanted this type of space, sort of a labyrinth coming into a unique chamber. But I'm also interested in sort of the total environment, sort of an architectural feeling. I didn't want to put a labyrinth of objects. Remember I was first talking to you about in the center there?
That's right.
It was going to be a maze. And then after spending days in here, this forms a maze, getting into this sort of situation, this ritual chamber, so to speak. But again,
What normally happens when people peek around and see you?
depends upon where Peter is, how I react. I can get anyone to come in if they get that far, or I can keep anyone out. If I look, like, it's usually, in public times, it's usually keeping people out. When mobs of school kids come, sort of group psychology, oh boy, what's happening? Their mates come and peek in and they queue up. And then I go through this arcade, and they want one, they're screaming. That's the toughest thing. But to say the two little old ladies, you know, that stick their nose around. Hey, how are you? Come on in, it's good. Then you come in. But if I was bored or tired or cranky, very nice, very subtle.
In Ma Brown's second artwork installation, and Stuart Brisley's standing, lying, walking and talking performance, which we see some of here now, the spectator has direct access to the artist for at least some of the time. For Stuart Brisley, the spectator had access almost 24 hours a day for 7 days. He chose a main thoroughfare for people through Hyde Park at Queen's Square as his location. Brisley set up residence in the park and built a structure of timber into which he crawled and built himself in, to be imprisoned in a cage of his own building. The work of building took place 8 hours a day, and for the rest of the time, Brisley was on site, eating, sleeping and talking to the spectators about anything that might come up, and of course especially about what he was doing there anyway. Stuart Brisley's work occurred continuously throughout the 7 days of his presence, and interactions with spectators were largely of a casual nature, posited only on the location of the work area. This is also the case in Fujiko Nakaya's fog sculpture. The spectator's interaction with the work is casual, potentially creative, and posited on its location in a very public space. The nature of spectator responsiveness, that is, the feedback sought and recognised by the artist, brings to us another characteristic of performance work, wherein we see it as a process going through time, not necessarily with a definable beginning or end, but with a continuity over some segment of time and with more or less recognition of the response of any spectators. It is this factor of social process that brings performance work its political nature. The exposure of the process must be consciously directed to other people at specific times and at specific places. It must involve a concept to do with others, which in itself cannot be realised, Brisley maintains, until the work has been overcome and transformed by others with a collective concern through the public process. After all, what is politics but the collective articulation of and dialogue over social processes at all levels, from our overall acculturation and socialisation to our day-to-day living. Stuart Brisley advocates a non-paternalistic democratic participation in art, one that involves the fusion of process, social context, political consciousness, and collective action. He admits the reality that the collective statement is not likely to be achieved, and without it, or at least without the intention to achieve it, the activity decays to become one of the more obvious aspects of decadent individualism, no more nor less significant than other activities which have not transcended individuality to become common.